Thank you. And go live. Yeah, you could do it from there. Okay. 1 second, actually, folks, 1 second. All right. We'll be troubleshooting in the background. So welcome to our final general meeting of this cycle or before the summer break. Round of applause, we made it, folks. For folks who are new, my name is Catherine Diaz and I am CB12 board chair. I'm joined up here by our first vice chair, Angel Vasquez, who will be keeping time. We have our treasurer, Michelle Lee, who will also be assisting on time and mic support. We have our second vice chair, Simari, who is our Zoom support and guru, and our parliamentarian, Jim Berlin, just in case there's questions. And so also for the record, we're joined by, we are hybrid and moving forward are hybrid. And so we're joined by, let me just call their name, excuse me. By Barbara Frazier, Tanisha Grant, Joseph Kalinsky, Emily Marte, Isidro Medina, Miriam James, who are participating on Zoom for extraordinary circumstances, and Luis Cruz as well. And then I do see 2 more folks who will need to give notice if they're participating due to extraordinary circumstance, which is, Indiana and Bruce Robertson and Fifth Floriman. Okay. Just for some housekeeping for folks in the room as well. The restrooms are to the right if you need to step away at any moment. And then for folks for public session, Simari is actively signing folks up. And if you have signed up, later on, we'll explain a little bit how we're going to be calling folks who are in person versus on Zoom. Thank you for that. All right, so I cannot officially call the meeting to order yet, but we're going to continue with our agenda, and then later on I'll call our meeting formally to order because we have not yet reached an in-person quorum. So I'm going to jump on to my chair report. We might need to move that. Okay. Thank you. Oh, actually, just sorry. I always forget to do our meeting norms. So as I shared earlier, and I know for some folks who might be new, we keep comments and questions under 2 minutes. Like I said, Angel Michelle will be assisting on time. This is really the meeting where we vote on formal business. So we don't necessarily engage in back and forth discussion. Really for robust conversations on topics on the floor tonight, we do that during our committee meetings, and that schedule is available on our website. If you do have a question, please use the Zoom hand feature to be able to be called, and we'll be rotating between board members on Zoom and in person. And if you are a resident, a non-board member, because again, this is a meeting where we really an administrative meeting, but we vote on business. So the public session is where non-board members or members of the public are able to participate. So make sure you do sign up if you do have a question, a comment, or something that you'd like to speak to. And then of course, no one may speak unless granted the floor. Thanks. All right, we got to skip to my chair report. Like, this is so weird. This is a brand new setup and room too. Can you hit the next one? Sorry, yeah, thank you. All right, so yeah, we made it, folks. As I said earlier, this Friday, we have many celebrations, connections to make. And so of course, we're gonna continue to push our public engagement. So this Friday, if you're watching on Zoom, we will be at North End to gather prior to the start of our summer break. And for folks who haven't been able to meet each other, it's a great opportunity. So the registration link is available. It's also being disseminated through our listserv. And of course, once you have that flyer, feel free to blast it out. There will be some surprises at the meeting. So if you want to see those surprises, come on by. And, or at, not the meeting, but the gathering, I should say. And it's a family-friendly space. So if you do have children, if you do have family members that you do want to bring forth, it's a great time for that. Oh, it is? I did not know it was pet friendly. Look at that. And then the last thing that folks walking in saw that we've been sharing in our last meetings is the survey by Service Design Studio around public engagement. So they're still actively receiving participants. So please fill that out. It is in all the board member packets. And it's also at the front desk, so complete that. And they'll definitely be following up with you and there'll be more announcements related to it. All right, any questions? No, okay. So with that said, I'm going to pass the mic, if you will, to our district manager, Ebenezer Smith. Yes, that is it for the chair report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Always it's a pleasure being here as your district manager and report to you. Last week, during the executive committee meeting, I made an announcement that the Department of Transportation gonna remove the PS 5 pedestrian bridge located on 10th Avenue and Dyckman. That removal was scheduled for tomorrow night. Nevertheless, they rescheduled for Thursday night until Friday morning. So the PS 5 pedestrian bridge will be removed on Thursday, June 29, overnight into Friday, June 30th. DOT will remove the bridge, the 4 spans of the bridge are gonna be totally removed, and the 10th Avenue will be closed for traffic, and it will divert through Nagle Avenue. That's gonna be the diversion until the morning. So just clarification, and that information came this afternoon. Last weekend, just before the meeting, so hopefully that they don't have to reschedule again. DOT also gave me the information that a traffic signal gonna be installed on 9th Avenue and West 205 Street by the former Passmar location and the new construction that we have there due to the rezoning, the big building that is being built there. And that gonna be installed tentatively scheduled, but before September 30th this year. Talking about that location, 9th Avenue and 207, we received several complaints this week from residents that that location, that intersection was closed on last Saturday, and people were not able to drive on 10th Avenue. And the traffic was very bad there because you may know that around there is a beer operation that bring a lot of traffic, and Whole Food operation that bring a lot of traffic as well. We learned that they requested and DOT approved permits to install trailers, office trailers on 9th Avenue, 9th Avenue and 207th Street. That will be very bad, and we were advocated with DOT, try to not to install those office trailers over there. We have a very bad situation on 179th Street between Broadway and Fort Washington. There are homeless people using the abandoned building for the synagogue as a safe haven to use drugs, and they left behind the syringe around there. Residents on that location, they call in my office since last year with very bad picture. They sent it over the weekend, people using the alleyway to do that. I am planning to have a special meeting next month in July with the appropriate city agency to find action to prevent this situation from happening again, and having a stop. The beginning of the month, we participated on the 175th anniversary of the High Bridge. It was very wonderful activity. Community Board 12 is sponsor that event by giving away cookies there. Liz Reader helped us doing that. It was her idea, and the board provide the funds, so we have very nice situation there. Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, High Bridge Park, the pool gonna be open, the commissioner gonna be there, the mayor gonna be there, and we plan to be there as well to be a witness of the season of the swimming pool, New York City swimming pool season for 2023. And tomorrow afternoon, Mayor Adams gonna be up here at Gregorio Luperon High School on 165th Street between Amsterdam and Audubon. everybody's invited to attend that event with Mayor Adams. Thank you very much. This is the end of my report. I want to wish you happy summer. We don't have meeting, but the office is gonna be open. We're gonna be working regular hours. We're gonna be taking complaints and trying to resolve every issue that come to our office. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? I didn't see any questions for Ebenezer and from in person or on the Zoom. So we're gonna try to move on. We still don't have an in-person quorum, folks, so bear with us. Yeah. So we had a question from the public. I'm gonna repeat back from Daniel, was if they're rebuilding the pedestrian bridge that Ebenezer reported on.
Yes, this pedestrian bridge gonna be removed and will not be reinstalled. Is the material that this bridge was built is the use, is already over. They don't plan to put it there. That's why they don't use this type of bridge anymore.
Great, thank you. And I missed something in my chair report that is of like vital importance to this body, to this community, which is the fact that our very own Daniel Bonilla was one of the 5 artists selected to repaint the tunnel on 190th Street. So we hope, congratulations. We're incredibly proud of you as always, and can't wait to see what you're working on. So definitely keep us in the loop over the summer. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the portion of our meeting dedicated to hearing from our elected officials and from their representatives. And I'm just gonna go see my list. Give me 1 second. I do see all right, so we have in order, we have Noah from the Public Advocate's Office. So I will unmute. Yeah, sorry. Yes, and for speakers on Zoom in person for elected officials, it is 3 minutes. And I will be able to see, hopefully, Angel with his timer and hear us, but we'll test that. Okay. Tiene que quitar. All right, Noah, can you hear us? No?
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. So just a couple of updates from the Public Advocate's Office. So last month, the City Council voted to pass the Public Advocate's Worst Landlord Law, which helps prevent fraudulent repairs by bad landlords, as well as increasing their accountability. And the bill is part of the Worst Landlord Accountability Act, which is a 2-bill package that comes out of the Public Advocate's annual Worst Landlord Watch List. And together, the legislation in the Worst Landlord Accountability Act will help tenants get the repairs they need, make the worst landlords pay for their negligence and deception. And it also shows that there are consequences for the conduct that puts landlords on our office's watch list in the first place. So that's just a legislative update. And our office, the Public Advocate, also does a television segment. So every 3rd Monday of each month from 7 to 8 p.m., you can tune into News 12 Bronx, Brooklyn, or online to watch our monthly segment, which is called Ask the Advocate. So from 7 to 8 p.m. every 3rd Monday of the month, the PA answers questions from callers live on air. And then lastly, as always, any New Yorker who wishes to contact our office to get in touch with concerns, issues, problems they're looking for assistance with, they can email our office at gethelp@advocate.nyc.gov, or they can also call our hotline, which is 212-669-7250. But I will also try to put that in the chat just for the general public. But yeah, that wraps it up for me if anyone has any questions.
I don't see questions from board members on Zoom or in person. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We look
Thank
forward to
you.
hearing from you again in the fall.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And next up, we have our very own Senator Jackson. Yeah.
So good evening, Madam Chair and members of CB12. Can you hear me? Yes? Good, thank you.
Yes.
So I wanted to come in and talk about the loss, expected loss of 30 cleaners that are basically staffing the subway stations at 168th, 184th and Fort Washington, 180th and St. Nicholas, 190th Fort Washington, and 190th and Amsterdam. These are the steepest subway elevator systems in in New York City Transit, and they are reassigning the approximately 30 cleaners that are stationed there that have limited restricted duty, and that's why they were there. The bottom line is that um, the safety and security of the people that we represent and all of the areas that are going to be impacted are at stake. You may be aware that there was a letter that was sent to the MTA in which all of the electors in Northern Manhattan signed, with the exception of Adriana Espaillat's office, because of the commit. I think that they could not sign on the letter as per whatever their protocol was. But Mark Levine, Carmen, myself, Manny, Al Taylor, all of the electeds signed on to it, basically expressing grave concern about the loss of these individuals that basically staff the elevator systems that I just mentioned. I don't know if Community Board 12 was aware, but I know that the chair of the Transportation Committee had wrote something about that, but this is going to be taking place as of July. And this is really going to have an impact on all of the people that use our elevators 24/7 in order to get from work, from home, entertainment, all of the things like that. And the possibility of, negative situations that exist. I said at the MTA board hearings where I gave testimony about the fare increases, but also I mentioned about the loss of the staff and the impact it's going to have, just like when they removed the token booth at 181st Street and Fort Washington Avenue. And now people are very concerned about going down there because homeless individuals are sleeping there and doing all type of negative activities and basically threatening the situation of safety and security. And so I wanted to make sure that CB12 was aware of that in order to communicate and or pass a resolution or communicate with New York City Transit, MTA, to see if they can help reverse the decision that they're going to do. No, I'm not going out right now.
Senator, we've reached time.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to bring to the attention of CB12. I am out in the street right now. As you know, this is Democratic primary day, and this is very important overall. But Edgar of my office is there in order to give the rest report if he can get online, not necessarily now, but at the end of when all of the electors finish speaking. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this grave issue that's impacting our community.
Thank you, Senator. All right, next up, we're going to be hearing from Evelyn Collado of the Mayor's Office. Yes, from the Mayor's Office.
From the New York
I'm
City.
sorry, from the comptroller. I will change that.
It's okay.
My
It's good. It's good. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak to the community tonight. I just, wanted to remind everyone of the duties of our office. As many people might not know what we really do at the New York City Comptroller's Office. Comptroller Brad Lander is tasked with safeguarding the city's fiscal health, making sure that we root out waste and fraud and abuse in local government, and ensuring that municipal agencies serve the needs of all New Yorkers. We do that through audits. We do that through, investigations into the city's agencies, but we also promote policies that enhance the city's commitment to efficiency and integrity and performance for all New Yorkers. And in that vein, I would like to bring attention to the communication from today about the very real possibility that more smoke is coming into New York City from Canada as soon as tomorrow. And so we are bracing for more pollution and bad air quality. So we, the Comptroller's Office, have built the New York City climate dashboard to keep to track the city's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. And so this dashboard gives us an overview of how well we are doing in getting to that target. So I would invite everyone to go to our website at controller.nyc.gov/NYC climate dashboard and look at how we are tracking climate change for New York City and how energy and emissions and overall environmental quality targets are being met. That will be all from me tonight, and thank you again.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Lori Tobias Cohen from Congressman Espaillat's office.
Okay, good evening, good evening. It's been a very, very, very busy month, picking up on my colleague who just spoke about the air quality issues and what we all went through with the wildfires. The congressman took to the House floor to stand up for New Yorkers impacted by the Canadian wildfires, and he made clear that there will be many such occurrences in the future if Congress does not act around the urgent issue of climate change. The congressman celebrated the Congressional Hispanic Caucus's Immigrant Heritage Month. He is the co-chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. The congressman also, in collaboration with Representative Norma Torres, helped kick off the New Americans Caucus as co-chairs during the 118th Congress. I'm pleased to say we had a really successful interfaith forum in the beautiful atrium space at the Collegiate Church. This was the first such since COVID, and thank God it really, really went well. We also had a extraordinary Pride breakfast this past Sunday at the Lobster Steakhouse, and my colleague said the food was incredible, and everyone was very, very pleased with the outcome of that event. I also want to encourage all of the members of CB12 and members of the community who may be joining us this evening for the Jewish American Community Town Hall. Our special guest is Shelley Greenspan, who is the White House liaison to the Jewish community. She will be reporting on the 60-page report on the status of anti-Semitism, which has seen a drastic increase in incidences over the last few years, and as well as violence, etc. And she will also talk about her remarkable professional journey. We will be joined by representatives from the American Jewish Committee, Anti-Defamation League, and the Jewish Community Relations Council. This will be at the Mount Sinai Jewish Center on the corner of 187th and Bennett this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I will share the flyer, of course, with CB12, and everyone is welcome to join us. Of course, there will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the event. And I will say one more thing, because I haven't heard the buzzer yet, and that is that the congressman joined Reverend Al Sharpton.
Lori, we've reached time.
Oh, all right, thank you.
As always, throw it in the chat, and of course, we'll be disseminating through the listserv over the summer any announcements that you do have, of course. And I believe that covers this portion of our electeds. I have received word that we have quorum, correct? Okay, so I'm gonna just pause here for a quick second. I know I got you for Borough President. Let me just formally call the meeting to order. The time is 7:11. We do have our agenda still to adopt, so I'm wondering, is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda? Okay, I saw Liz first and then Anthony Viola seconded. Thank you. All right, now we can move on to our Borough President's report and I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to tonight's, the adoption of tonight's agenda? I don't hear either in person or Zoom. Is there anyone abstaining or in conflict? None? All right, hearing none, it is adopted. Thank you, Liz, for that. All right, so we do have, last but certainly not least, Porfirio on behalf of the Manhattan Borough President's Office. He gets to come down and use the mic stand. We just need to move it or send it, however you like.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, first of all, I want to say it's wonderful to see civic government back in action and live again. My name is Porfirio Figueroa, and I am the representative from Mark Levine, the Manhattan Borough President. Happy Pride to everyone. I wanted to share that the Manhattan Borough President recognizes that the city of New York once again celebrated Juneteenth as an official city holiday. He also celebrated the Puerto Rican Day Parade on Sunday, June 11th, marching with the CB chair of 11, Community Board 11. Love the music. And we also celebrated Pride by marching in the parade. And we were joined by our very own Liz Ritter from CB12, which was wonderful, cowbells and all. I just want to take a moment. We would be remiss if we didn't recognize the recent loss of Senator, Council Member Bill Perkins. And so I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that. The Manhattan Borough President will be attending the opening of the pool season at the Highbridge Pool Park, unless, of course, the as we have heard, the fires and the conditions change. We celebrated the 175th anniversary of Highbridge Park. It was wonderful to see so many CB12 members there. And we also celebrated the Puerto Rican Heritage event along with Congressman Espaillat. A special welcome to our new board members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. After a record-breaking number of applicants, we had our onboarding process. We truly look forward to the new voices on the community board. In May, the Rent Guidelines Board passed a preliminary vote to increase rent stabilization apartments in New York City. The Manhattan Borough President sent a joint letter with the Manhattan City Council members, basically saying we should have had a hearing in Manhattan. That goes without saying, but I want to put that on the record. Last week, we released an AI report with a call to action on AI in New York City. This document lays out a series of recommendations and steps that should be taken to manage the transformative impacts of generative AI in New York City. In it, we highlight the immense potential as well as the associated risks that generative AI could pose. The recommendations are broken into 6 categories and include city government, schools, employment, creative professionals, local elections, and safety. We also passed at the Borough Board meeting a resolution in support of the Department of the City's Planning Zoning Text Amendment for the City of Yes for carbon neutrality. Last, 2 legislative things. We introduced 1077 and 1076, which requires the mayor to develop a report that proposes a capital project and implementation of timelines for installation and maintenance of public bathrooms, and that would require to identify public-facing municipal buildings with ADA accessible bathrooms and make at least one of those bathrooms open to the public. And that's my report.
Excellent. Are there any questions in person or on Zoom for Porfirio? Go ahead, Mariel. We're going to have Michelle pass the mic so that folks on Zoom don't miss a question. Okay. All right, she'll be in the stand.
Thanks, Porfirio. My question is on the MBPO's policy on AI. It's stuff that I'm doing at work. are there any opportunities for like public input? I know there was kind of like a Google form and I put something there, but do you know, and I still have yet to read kind of the full policy in detail, will there be opportunities for like, public forum or something a bit more broader as it relates to kind of how we leverage AI? Thank you.
Thank you very much for asking that question. And that's something that's being discussed right now by a policy team. What I would recommend by all means is read the report, which you say you have. And if you have any recommendations, please do forward them. And I also urge CB12 to give us any input that they have on the report. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Miriam James, one of our board members, has raised her hand.
Miriam.
So, see, Marie, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, do you have any date for the opening of the Monsignor Cat Park?
I do not have that, no.
Okay, is there any way that we can get it?
Miriam-
Parks.
Oh, so sorry, Liz just shouted out. She'll work on getting that for you, and we'll also
Okay, thank
staff our
you.
chief of staff for parks. Liz has a question. Liz, if you can kindly come up, use a mic. Yes, I don't think sound carries for everyone.
This is not a question, it's a comment. The borough president made a very nice tweet about his participation at the Pride Parade on Sunday. It got a lot of likes and some shares and a lot of really negative trolling comments from, I don't know, wingnuts in Texas and red people upstate. And it was because I was tagged in that tweet. I saw all of this and I just wanted to say that I appreciate that whoever is managing his social media declined to engage with any of these people. And if you were ever wondering if Twitter really is a cesspool, it really is a cesspool. It was very sad, but thank you for that.
It was, if I mean, one minute.
Liz, thank you so much. It goes without saying, specifically the LGBTQIA community is under attack. That fight has to continue. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Porfirio, again. And we have one more speaker that I actually missed from the district attorney's office. We have Jocelyn Minaya.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well this evening. I will definitely keep it brief so we can move it along. I just wanted to make an announcement that we are very excited to make sure that the community knows. So the DA announced today a $6 million investment to mental health, major mental health investment. And the RFP went to this program called The Bridge. And basically the Bridge, their peer navigators will directly reach New Yorkers with deeply entrenched mental health and substance use needs. We know that addressing fundamental needs like access to a safe home and mental health care, by doing that, we can improve public safety in our communities. You heard us speak about the RFP for quite a few months. And, there were 4 focus areas, Washington Heights and Inwood being one of them. So these peer specialists, and this is what we are so excited about the Bridge. The Bridge is comprised of people that are peer specialists with lived experiences, which means they have navigated through the system. They have been homeless themselves once and possibly substance abusers, and they were able to surpass all those obstacles and now have this wonderful organization. And they are going to be out on the street, ground level, doing this type of work, identifying people that have issues that are perhaps and camping in the parks or in buildings. I know some of our developments have some issues. So these are the people we're going to target. We are going to definitely connect the community with the Bridge, because our community are the ones that know where the most need is, and making sure that they know where the most need is in Washington Heights and Inwood. And goes without saying, if you address the core issue, then hopefully you're going to address all the other issues. So I'll bring you more on this as it continues to develop. They have a 6-month rollout plan. And I'm looking for input, advice, anyone in the community that wants to, have their voice heard and have specific areas where we know that the bridge needs to be entrenched in, please give me a call. And I'm excited about this new RFP and this new program. So thank you for allowing me to share tonight.
Excellent. Thank you, Jocelyn. Are there any hands from board members in person or Zoom? I do not, but we look forward to this. Oh, Alvin, go on ahead.
Hello, I have a quick question. How are you going to measure success of this program?
That's a good question. So I will not be measuring the success, of course. So this all went out through the CJII, which is the Criminal Justice Investment Initiative. They have a rigorous, program. They have a rigorous way to measure successes and what's going right and what's not going right and be able to tweak it. So, we will see. Hopefully the success will be something that we can readily notice, but we'll definitely keep you posted. So let's let them get their 6 months in and get the program rolling, and then let's let them be out on the street and whatever needs to be fixed, and it'll be fixed along the way for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Jocelyn. That was a great question, Elvin. All right, so we're gonna move on. Jackson spoke already, yeah. Was there something that Senator Jackson missed, like an announcement?
Hi, yeah, so I just wanted to give the report from the office. The senators came on specifically to speak about the CWU workers. So is that okay?
Okay, I'll allow, let's put 2 minutes if it's okay, just because we're a little behind tonight and we have a robust public
Sure.
session.
Okay, so we all know that the legislative session update has ended. Despite there being some setbacks regarding some of the demands that we wanted, some accomplishments have been highlighted. 31 of the senator's bills and others that he strongly considered and supported were passed, including the raising of the minimum wage in the state up to $17 an hour by 2027, with a consideration of inflation rates, the introduction of a pilot program for free bus lines per borough, and of course, other bills regarding civil services and pensions. Also, he's also been active in representing the interests of the people regarding providing testimony to the Rent Guidelines Board, urging that they roll back the rents or commit to freezing them. Despite the RGB's decision to increase rents, our office will continue to advocate for tenants to make sure that they are not being evicted. Also, we held a gun violence awareness evening of visual and action along with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority on June 2nd with other electeds from the community. We also then joined forces with CETO and the Artistic Noise to bring forth the Portraits Against Gun Violence exhibit, which opened on June 15th and will continue until July 1st at the Hannah Troy Gallery on 150 Orchard Street in the Lower East Side. And in the month of July, we will be hosting the Senator on the Corner tour with specific days such as July 18th at the Ilka Tanya Payan Park, and on July 25th at 186th Street in St. Nicholas from 3 to 6 on both days. And we'll be providing our constituent services that we provide in the offices onto the streets. And of course, you can reach us at 212-544-0173 to make an appointment with
Excuse me, your
any
time
of
is
us.
up.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you so much. All right, so that concludes the elected officials component of our meeting. We're gonna move on to what is our public session. So just as a quick reminder, we're going to start with folks who are on virtually, and then we're gonna go to in person just to make it easier. And at the same time, it's 2 minutes. Simari will go on ahead and unmute you. And either Angel or Michelle will speak into the mic when your time is up. If you're having technical difficulties, we'll try to circle back.
Okay, thank you everyone for your patience for the public session. We have a few online signups, and I'll call our first speaker, Susan Peters from New Yorkers for Wired Tech. And let me just allow you to speak, Susan, if you'd like to try the volume.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I grew up as a child in the Dykeman Project, so I know the area in my heart. And I just want to talk about the jumbo 5G cell towers that the city with the telecoms want to put on our sidewalks 10 feet from where people live and work and walk. And I just want to tell the community to do your research, and I'll tell you why. The city and the telecoms will say to you, well, we're following the FCC guidelines. They won't tell you anything more. And here's a public federal case that they have to know about that was decided in August 2021. And in that case, the FCC said, we're going to ignore 11,000 pages of public testimony given to us from 2013 through 2019. And we're going to keep our 1996 guideline on what's protecting the public. And the judge said to them, the FCC, you failed to provide a reasoned explanation. How do you know your 1996 guidelines adequately protect people? That's 20 years ago. So please, I'll send a link to this case. Please read it. It's very important. The city and the telecoms will not tell us about it. They will give presentations. They know about this. They have to. It's a major case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. I will move on to our next speaker. I see Martin, you have your hand raised. If you can just place the comment in the chat and I'll assist you there. I'll move on to our next public session speaker who's on virtually, Arnold Gore, also from New Yorkers for Wired Tech. Let me just unmute you just 1 second. If you'd like to try the volume now.
Mute. Hi.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Arnold Gore from Brooklyn, New York now, but I lived in Washington Heights for 30 years. And I noticed that right opposite where I used to live, it's at 689 Fort Washington Avenue. There have been a number of complaints that were brought before this board about the adverse health effects of this wireless technology. As Sue had mentioned previously, those guidelines were 28 years old, and they have not been updated. There had been many independent scientific studies showing that there's elevated rates of brain cancer to infertility. But the New York City Council has the ability to set standards for zoning and siting. The Telecommunications Act still gives cities the opportunity to set zoning and siting standards, and it would be much easier for the city of New York to uphold the denial of requests for cellular installations if we had a proper zoning law. There has been a proper zoning law enacted in Woodstock, New York, and one of the courts in the Eastern District of New York has upheld the right of localities to set these zoning and siting regulations. And the only thing that a telephone company has to show is that there is a gap in service, which you do not find in most areas of New York City. And
Sir, your
it's a
time
gap-
is up.
Okay.
Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you, Arnold. And I will move on to our next virtual public session speaker, who is Jill McManus, also with New Yorkers for Wired Tech. Just try your volume, Jill. I'm going to ask you to unmute. You should be able to unmute yourself to speak. I think you're off mute. Just try to speak. We cannot hear you yet. I will move on to our next speaker. Hold on, I did not see.
Marco.
Yes, Marco Shalma from MASC Hospitality Group. I do not want to say the acronym on your behalf, so I'll just go and unmute you or allow you to speak if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Welcome, Marco. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Marco Sharma. I am the owner of MAG Events, it's Mass Hospitality Group. We are the producer of the Uptown Night Market, Brooklyn Night Market, the Bronx Night Market, and the Vegan Night Market in Central Park. That's where I'm actually taking the call from. We recently had a meeting with the Economic Development Committee and asking for a little support from the board in regards to the Latin night market that in Dyckman that we are intending and wanting to produce with the support of the board, with support of some of the merchants, the local merchants association, and some of the government officials to create the city's first ever Latin night market in Dyckman on September 15. It is intended to be like a single day, single block event with SAPO. That's why we are requesting the support of the board, and hopefully we can create something for next year. We catapult something for next year that we can come back and maybe create this event monthly, the same like we do in other places. A little bit about what we do is we are known around the city for creating affordable events which are full with food from different cultures and have live entertainment on different levels. This particular one, we planning to have like a really like the top of our lineup of event, supporting a variety of Latin based vendors from the entire Hispanic diaspora. And 9/15, that's the first day of Hispanic Heritage Month as celebrated in New York. So we thought, with in collaboration with the rest of the partners and the stakeholders, thought it would be like amazing to really bring attention from the entire city and the tri-state area
Your
Dyckman.
time is up.
Thank you, Marco. Feel free to drop any information in the chat, such as contact information or any details you'd like to share. I will move on to our next speaker, Odette Wilkins, President and General Counsel for Wired Broadband, Inc. Odette, I'm just allowing you to speak now.
All right. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Thank you so much. I've spoken here before, and thank you very much for having me again. I'm President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband. We are a nonprofit that's focusing on safe technology for the public. I'm also a technology attorney. I just put in the chat some information which I think will be very important for you. Washington Heights is steeped with historical landmarks and historical buildings, as well as historical districts. We are holding a town hall tomorrow, Wednesday, June 28th, 4 to 6 p.m. on the Link 5G towers to discuss how to participate in the historic preservation review being conducted by City Bridge as required by the Federal Communications Commission under the National Historic Preservation Act. And City Bridge will also be supplying someone to talk about the procedure. I put in a registration link in the chat, and you must act now or you lose the opportunity to object. So you may participate in protecting your historic districts and landmarks and those otherwise eligible for protection by requesting to be a consulting party. I also put in the chat where you can send your email to do that. Your landmarks committee chair can certainly apply for consulting party status. Anyone can apply for consulting party status in Washington Heights and Inwood. So I would encourage you to do so. And in the email, you would simply say it's a request for Link 5G consulting party status and explain who you are, your organization, and why you are interested in consulting on the historic preservation of your district with respect to the Link 5G process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Odette. Feel free to share any additional information in the chat. And I'll move to our next virtual public session speaker, Martin Collins. I'm just going to allow you to speak, Martin, if you'd like to unmute. He's representing the Northern Manhattan Art Stroll.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance Uptown Art Stroll Coordinator. We want to invite all of you who are present virtually and in person tonight to our 21st Uptown Art Stroll and 14th Women in the Heights closing reception. It'll take place from 6 to 9 p.m. this Thursday, June 29th at the United Palace on Broadway and 175th Street. We will have two-part program that evening. First, from 6 to 7 p.m. in the United Palace Grand Foyer on 175th and Broadway, the opening of Andrea Arroyo's exhibition, Goddesses at the Palace, followed by a Broadway cabaret live music and dancers performance by Broadway show people who live in Washington Heights and Inwood, produced by, ironically, the Uptown Art Stroll poster contest winner, Devin White, this year. That'll be 6 to 7 p.m. on Thursday in the Grand Foyer of the United Palace. Then you can just walk next door, it's 1 block north, to Noma's Gallery, where we will have the closing reception for the Uptown Art Stroll and the Women in the Heights exhibition from 7 to 9 p.m. with food and beverages from local restaurants. We do ask you to please RSVP on our website, nomanyc.org. That's NOMAANYC.org. And we do hope to see as many, if possible, all of you this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. at the United Palace. And we want to thank you all. Community Board 12 is a co-founder of the Uptown Art Stroll. And we want to thank you for getting the word out to the community throughout the entire year and during the 21st Uptown Art Stroll. That concludes my remarks. I put it in the chat twice. You can see everything else there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clarifying question?
I think you have to speak in the mic, sorry. Over here so we can see on the
Indiana could
camera.
say it.
Indiana asked if the venue is accessible, and the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, I will call our last virtual public session speaker, our community resident, Aisha Ogilvy. I don't see you on the attendees, but I wasn't sure if you're dialing in. Okay. Well, just in case, if you do join us, please feel free to reach out. We are now getting to the end, or we're now at the end of our virtual public session list. So we'll transition over to in-person. So if you signed up to speak in person, we will call you. Do you need this mic? But we just need you to come to the front. No, you're gonna walk it? Okay, for video? Oh, no, you have to come to the front of the room. We'd like to see
Stroll
your
on down.
face on video there. So thanks in advance for those steps. And I will call our first speaker. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Muzi Rosenblatt from Inwood Sacred Site and Shelter. Thank you for walking down. And you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Great, thank you. Good evening, I'm Muzzy Rosenblatt. I'm the president and CEO of BRC, the Bowery Residents Committee. We're a housing and social services organization founded in 1971, helping people reclaim lives lost by helping them restore dignity and health and self-sufficiency. And I'm here tonight to speak in support of the resolution of the Housing and Health and Housing, Marielle's committee, with support of Liz and the Parks and Cultural Committee. And thank you, Catherine Ebenezer, for the work, and all of you in CB12 for the years of thoughtful conversations that we've had about the site at 3966, been renumbered 3972, 10th Avenue at 212th Street. It's a site where we will be building a residence, a center for healing, what some people call a homeless shelter, just to be straight with you about it. A place where people who have suffered the traumas of homelessness and the indignities of racial and social injustice that they've experienced, a place for people to heal. But it's also a site that has a traumatic history that we learned about, and it's why we paused the project 2.5 years ago and began a process of listening to members of the community, members of descendants of the enslaved Black community, whose ancestors were buried on the site and then traumatically removed from the site, members of the Lenape community who occupied the site even before that and worshiped at the site. And so as we listened, and we listened to clients, and we listened to staff, and we tried to listen to the site itself. We realized that the trauma that existed before needs to heal. And so we modified our designs, and we'll, working with the Dyckman Farmhouse Alliance and others in the community, be building a memorial on the site as well. A living memorial, a place where people can come, anyone can come to heal, as well as our shelter. So thank you for
Mr.
your support
Rosenblatt.
and continue to work together. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. I will move on to our next in-person question.
it a
Clarify.
Jim, use the mic, please, because
Thank you. Sorry about that. How many residents will the shelter hold?
The capacity of the shelter will be 116 single men.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and just for folks is clarification, that's resolution letter E. There we go. Thank you. If you want to, and we could call all three so they're.
Yes, I'll just queue up the next few speakers. So we have Demi Canty from Service Design Studio, I believe. Was that just a sign-in? Okay, no worries, no worries.
I'm sure there's a question on the floor.
If you have a question, please come up to the front. We'll queue you up. It's just the Zoom is not going to hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a question. Is this transitional housing or permanent housing?
Transitional housing?
Sorry.
We'll talk about, sorry, yeah, so we'll
my
talk about
mistake.
the reso
No
when
worries.
Marielle presents it, and then we can have more conversation.
I'll queue up. No worries. Thank you for the question. So I'll move on to our next in-person speaker, Peggy King Jord. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. She's also representing Inwood Sacred Site and Shelter, and I'll queue up our next speaker just to stand by, Al Kirkland, just in case. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy King Yorda, and I am an advisor to the BRC Men's Shelter, and I'm here in support of the resolution that will be voted on tonight. I have a long history of working with the City of New York on our nation's first national monument honoring enslaved African people in New York City, downtown. If you haven't visited, I hope you will. And I have the pleasure and the honor of working with BRC on the site in Inwood, the Inwood Sacred Sites. This is a site that was a burying place for enslaved Africans who were owned by the Dyckman and Nagel family. And I would just like to say that it's rare, and I work on sites all over the world. I work on African burial sites all over the country and all over the world. And it's rare that you have a developer who is willing to honor the history and the culture of a people, which is so important, a culture and a history that has been obscured in a city like New York. So what makes this project so incredibly important is the fact that it does honor in many ways the history, past, and the present of people who are considered marginalized. So I think that this is going to be an incredible project and one that sets a precedent for other projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. And our final in-person speaker, Al Kirkland from Vote 16. I remembered.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm really just coming here tonight to extend a huge thank you and a voice of gratitude from our Vote 16 volunteer team that's been working to support legislation in Albany to lower the voting age to 16. We were looking forward to some support from Community Board 12, but the actual resulting vote was just such overwhelming support. We never anticipated it being such a large margin support, and we deeply appreciate this. Community Board 12, you are actually the launch point for what's going to be a campaign reaching out to the other 58 community boards across the city. So it's a really positive launch. And I wanted to specifically give gratitude to Faye Floriman, the chair of the youth committee, who's been a lifelong supporter, not just for Vote 16, but for so many issues that affect young people where they don't have traditional avenues of support to get recognized and participate in the civic realm. And I also wanted to thank Liz Ritter, who has always gives such guidance and practical support for drafting resolutions, taking me back to English 101 in my college days. So thank you very much for that. And I also just wanted to let the community board know that your action has been recognized in places from San Francisco, the San Francisco Youth Commission, to Johns Hopkins in Washington, D.C. Recognize your support, and also something called the Vote 16 research organization out of Zurich, Switzerland. Don't ask me how that happened, but you are hereby recognized by those bodies. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkland. There was one in-person speaker that I did miss. I'm going to call Mr. Randall from High Rise representing 37 Hillside. Sorry, Randall.
No problem. Thank you very much. I know. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I know that we're short on time. So I'm Randall Toure. I'm with the Riseboro Community Partnership. We are developing a project at 37 Hillside. We've been to the community board before regarding this project, but today I'm coming to just inform the community that the marketing for the project will be opening as a 164 unit building at 37 Hillside. It is 100% affordable senior housing. And so we're looking to let the community know that this will soon, right after the 4th of July, the marketing will start on Housing Connect. And so we're going to work with the community board, get the information to the community board, get the information out here to let folks know that they can apply. So just to let you know that as part of this, many people who are familiar with that block, there is a church there called the Rocky Mount Baptist Church. That church will also be in the building, and they'll have a brand new church in that building. And so that's the way, I just want to let you know that. So right now, there'll be 50 units set aside for homeless individuals. There'll be 50 units set aside for NYCHA Section 8 individuals. So one of the things that we want to do is to reach out to the public housing in Inwood to make sure that those residents who live in public housing can apply, know that they can get onto the NYCHA wait list and have preference for the housing in this particular development. And then the last one is that there'll be 56 units set aside for Housing Connect. So we're going to be working with the community board. We'll work with any other organizations out here. I'm going to leave some information on the table over there. And I'm just happy to let you know that this project is finally coming to a close, and that we'll start having your new neighbors in their building, hopefully sometime in October, November this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Randall. And again, that's on 37 Hillside. Right on time. I will circle back to our last virtual public session speaker. I'm not sure if this is you, Aisha, with your hand raised. I will allow to speak just to see. Aisha Ogilvy.
Thank you. Yes, that is me. Good evening, everyone. So I wanted to speak this evening. It took me a while to get on. Somehow my normal email was not able to log in. It seems to be blocked maybe because it kept requesting that I re-register and re-register. I used another email and got in immediately. That being said, I wanted to speak about the Rent Guidelines Board vote that has just taken place. And the fact that in the wake of our current economic situation, specifically coming out of a pandemic that is still affecting our communities, it is shocking to me that under this mayor, Eric Adams, that we have a rent guidelines board that would vote to increase rents at the rates and the percentages that they have chosen to. This board did a good job of putting forward a request to roll back rents, which is what is really needed. But we in Community Board 12 have one of the highest stock of rent stabilized housing. And I think that, I want to issue a rally cry to people to step up and challenge what is taking place in the RGB and what is taking place under this mayor, because this is going to have devastating effects on people in our community. Evictions are at an alarming rate right now. I'd heard this on the radio just recently, that it's at record highs, the rate of evictions, and this is only going to serve to increase that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aisha. Feel free to drop any information in the chat just to share out here. And that wraps up our public session. Thank you everyone for your comments. I'll pass it back to the chair.
Thank you, Simari. All right, so we're going to move forward with tonight's committee resolutions. We have 23 of them, y'all. So we're gonna be moving. All right, so the first one, and I will tap Jim Berlin as necessary. We do have a personnel matter before us this evening. As I've let some folks know, this is an administrative resolution, and so discussion warrants us entering into executive session, meaning that all non-board members would have to physically leave the room and virtually would also need to leave the room. And the challenge before us is that the Zoom account that we have don't have those administrative controls where we're able to do the breakout sessions to be able to have a full discussion. That's something definitely to fix in the fall. So what I wanted to talk about is essentially giving folks time. If you have not read that is resolution letter 8. Please take the time to read it. If there are substantive questions that prevent you from voting in either direction or moving forward, then we'll have to move into that executive session. Are there any questions about procedure about that? Or is there a question that is not substantive to the content of that resolution? Okay, hearing none and seeing I don't see hands on Zoom, what we're gonna do is move forward to land use, and we'll keep moving through our resos. If there is a question that you have, again, that prevents you from or impedes you from voting in either direction, please let us know. So we're gonna bring on down Land Use Chair Wayne Benjamin. I feel like I need a little clap hands. No, 5.
So good evening. First of all, given the time, I refer you to the minutes of the June Land Use Committee meeting for the details. The resolution that is before us is actually related to the matter that the Borough President's rep voted on. There is a citywide zoning text amendment entitled City of Yes for Carbon Neutrality. It affects all 59 community districts, and the intent is to remove impediments in the existing zoning resolution to allow the city to meet its sustainability guidelines to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And those zoning text amendments will address removing impediments to decarbonize the city's energy grid, buildings, that's new buildings and building retrofits, vehicles, meaning to, encourage, the greater use of electric vehicles, as well as things that affect the waste stream. And believe it or not, there's still a percentage of the waste stream operation that generates greenhouse gases. So if you go through the resolution, it gives you details on each of the categories for energy, buildings, vehicles, and waste stream, what the zoning resolution would do to remove impediments. But, keeping it simple, the intention is to take this 1961 document and bring it up to date so that the various local laws that have been put in place in the last decade or so, encouraging sustainability and encouraging buildings to be more energy efficient, can actually move forward and not run into impediments that are put in place by zoning and that have not been addressed in decades. Are there any questions on that resolution? I think you probably need to come up.
Sorry, where can we read details about this resolution? I think he's mentioned it.
The resolution's in the package.
Wait, she's not a member.
I'm not a board member. I'm just a general public here.
The resolution should be posted to our website.
Yeah, so the resolutions are posted on our website in draft format, and then after tonight's vote, they'll be formally on our website.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna read these, so.
sorry.
And additionally, if you go to the Department of City Planning's website and just kind of Google City of Yes, you'll find extensive information on this proposal, including a slide presentation that was presented to CB12 as well as to many other community boards citywide.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Are there any other questions?
None on Zoom for you.
You do?
No, none on
Okay,
Zoom. sorry.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Parks and Cultural Fairs with Resolution C presented by Liz Ritter.
Not quite that tall. Yep. Okay, so I have a few announcements before I get to my resolution. As you heard, it's Art Stroll Month, many events, and I hope to see many of you at the closing reception on Thursday. The Hispanic Museum and Library is open. The strike is over. Yay. Go, it's a gem, go visit. There's also this weirdly wonderful or wonderfully weird temporary exhibition on the terrace of an interactive kinetic sculpture that you can walk through. It's very strange. It's kind of fun. It will be there for a year or less, according to the landmark rules. Porfirio, will Mark be bringing his bathing suit tomorrow so that he can actually swim in the pool? That's a throwdown. I will be jumping in. Fort Tryon Park's restaurant concession, the Bonifant, is likely going to be opening in the late summer or Labor Day. They were a little bit delayed due to some issues with their gas lines. The 191st Street tunnel is being repainted, featuring the art of 5 artists, at least one of whom you know, our own CB12's own art man, Danny Bonilla, which is fantastic. That deserves a round of applause. Thank you.
Always.
Can I get an amen? I would like to give a shout out to Cassandra Fjotland. I think that's how she pronounces her name. No, that is the Girl Scout troop leader. So Girl Scout Troop 3205, one of the girls in that troop has logged in 80 hours of service working with the Youth Roundtable, facilitating conversations with law enforcement in reference to youth arrest and incarcerations. Not strictly a Parks and Cultural Affairs issue, but that was something that came before my committee. And I think that when we have engaged youth, they deserve to be noted publicly. At our meeting, we had a lot going on, including a report from the Central Park Conservancy and the work that they are doing up here in Community District 12 in Roger Morris Park and Highbridge Park. We had a great presentation from the Parks Department on the Dykeman Piers renovation and the renovation of the Sandy area, not technically a beach because you can't swim from it, but renovation of the demolition of the fishing pier and construction of a new fishing pier that will be better and nicer, and I'm very excited. We also had a preliminary presentation from EDC on the North Cove and Academy Street parks. Details on all of that will be in the minutes, which will be forthcoming later this week. I apologize for the delay. And last but certainly not least, we had a presentation from the Parks Department on the renovation of the Lily Brown Playground, sandwiched between the upper and lower Riverside Drives between 162nd and 163rd Street. It's been over 20 years since that playground has had a renovation. We are very excited and grateful to Council Member Sean Abreu for allocating $3.75 million to renovate that playground. To be clear, the renovation, as you can have, I hope, read in the resolution, will include new play structures and play pieces that are appropriate for 2 to 5-year-olds and 5 to 12-year-olds, an open area with water elements and a variety of spray features, lots of swings, a twirly, what's it called? Twirly slide, wooden bridges and a stone path that provide a variety of sensory experiences, lots of information in the resolution. It does not, and an accessible pathway with switchbacks, which is desperately needed because of the slope and grade of the playground. It does not include a renovation of the comfort station itself. That is outside of the scope and funding. So there's a be it resolved that we support the project as proposed and presented by the Parks Department, and a be it further resolved calling on our electeds to fund an additional project at some point in the future to make that bathroom accessible. Are there any questions on first on the reso? Fantastic. Any questions on any of the items reported? Well, thank you all for your support. Yes.
Mike.
A question that I'm really sending back to committee. I don't expect you to answer it too much, but a while ago we were discussing park renamings. This fall, could you do an update on that?
Yes. You bet.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have our Business Development Committee, Joel Abreu, with Resolution D. That's the one that Marco during the public session spoke to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a great venue, by the way. I'm loving it. So just, I'm going to mention some things that we spoke about. We had 2 presenters. So first of all, my name is Joel Abreu. I'm the chair of the Business Development Committee. So any new members are welcome to come meet every first Tuesday. So first thing we had was the Washington Heights bid just got awarded $450K to do some cleanly supplemental sanitation for the assessed areas of 168th Street to 179th Street on Broadway to remove graffiti, to remove stickers, things on mailboxes, lampposts, so and power washing sidewalks. So definitely some beautification that and treatment for that area. So shout out to Isidro and the Washington Heights bid. Secondly, we had a presentation from Amanda Sapido's office. His name is Francisco Marte. It's for the small businesses security for bodegas. So basically, this representative, I believe she represents the South Bronx. She was able to allocate some money to give grants to bodega, supermarket owners, deli owners for security cameras. This grant right now, you could go on her website, which is Amanda Septimo, it's all in the minutes, and apply for this. Please let this, the word be out. That definitely public safety is a big concern. So having this grant to install high definition cameras and panic buttons and a POS system is definitely needed. So recommend that you guys share that information. Now to the highlight, you heard Marco. Marco heads MHG. They are an internet sensation. If you haven't heard of them, they are the organizers of the Uptown Night Market, the Bronx Night Market, the Brooklyn Night Market, and most recently, the Vegan Night Market. They have over 50 million impressions on Instagram. They're highly renowned. They're gonna definitely give a much needed boost to small businesses in the area. The resolution, it's about bringing a Latin night market to Dyckman. This will consist of, a permit from the Mayor's Office of Entertainment, from Seaman to Staff Street, obviously not including Quisqueya Plaza. And it's going to be on September 15th. The reason why they chose that date was because of Hispanic Heritage Month starts on that date. And it's going to include, like he mentioned, a variety, not just Dominican or Puerto Rican cuisines, but of all the diasporas. And it's going to include 40% of local businesses. So it's going to support local businesses, and the foot traffic is going to give a much needed revenue boost to the surrounding areas. So I encourage my fellow board members to vote for this. Last thing I want to mention about this is that it is a pilot program, right? So if anybody who's familiar with the Uptown Night Market, you know that it's every 2 weeks kind of event. So we're trying to pilot it for this year so we can kind of do it for next year and bring that attention to our neighborhood. So like I mentioned, it's going to be a boost for our local businesses. So again, recommend you guys vote for this resolution.
Okay, we have a hand in person from Liz Ritter. Domingo and Luana. Elsie, was that a hand? Yeah, okay, 4. Oh, apologies. All right, I got you. Mm-hmm.
Hey, so 3 things. 1, love the night market, totally support this, absolutely voting in favor of it. And I encourage everyone to do the same. This is a responsible guy and a great event. 1 small hiccup is that I feel that I would be remiss as a Jew if I did not state publicly for the record that in addition to being the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th is also the first night of Rosh Hashanah. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't love that this event is happening on the second holiest day in my liturgical calendar. If we tried to have a Jewish oriented event on, December 25th, people would think that was rude, even though it's not my holiday, and people would be right. So I get that that's not you, it's the organizer, but I just feel I have to put it on record. And the other thing is I have a friendly amendment on the reso. The final whereas says Congressman Adriano Espaillat, the council member, the assembly member, all support this event. Now therefore be it. No disrespect to these folks. I appreciate all of them. I'm happy to be represented by all of them. Not Manny, I'm in Al's district, but I don't understand why that's necessary. We usually only include elected officials in the resolved when we're calling on our electeds to do something. The purpose of our resos is, we think such and such is a good idea and we support it, or we think such and such is a bad idea and we oppose it. I would suggest deleting this because I think it's superfluous. That's all I got. Thanks.
Can I respond? Or
Yeah, you have to either accept or say no to her friendly amendment.
yes to the friendly amendment. I just included it just to note the support of this event. So yeah, sure. Just to quickly mention about Marco is very responsible. He held last summer 70 events throughout the city. So just, you know, just to harp on his responsibility to the city and what he does and puts on. Yeah, like I mentioned, Liz, this is a pilot. So next year, definitely consider some of the dates going forward.
Done, yeah. So we got Tracy. Hector, you got your hand up? Okay, I got you. There's 5 people. Give 1 second.
Hi, quick
Hey.
question. It says 40% businesses need to be local. When we classify local, is that include all of Community Board 12? Or is there certain blocks and things that classify as local for this?
Great question. So Marco is taking recommendations from the Washington Heights bid to the Chamber of Commerce. And you can reach out to me and I'll reach out to Marco of any businesses that you have. Keep in mind that next year he does plan to bump it up, right? So it's 40% now. So next year we do decide to vote on this permit, and next year he's thinking of bringing it up to 50 to 60% of local businesses. So any recommendations, he welcomes it. Yes, thank you.
I'll try to be fast and hopefully Marcos is on the line. I wonder what other streets were considered and what were the rejections for the consideration, and is there any way to consider it being from Staff to La Marina just because of street closures and the traffic and all that stuff?
So there was a couple of considerations. One to extend it past Staff, but they had some issues because of the park that's on the right-hand side, going down towards the La Marina. Again, this is a great recommendation, and Isidro's not here, but I think he's on the line. He also did a walkthrough of different events, areas that he could do, but they decided on this one. So maybe we can, if I speak to Marco for next year, we can definitely consider other locations.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I missed that meeting. I really wanted to attend, but I had but I actually agree with Tracy. I agree with Tracy. When it comes to this is a business, right? So while we say 60-40 is great, at the end of the day, if we're gonna do something communally and really look to amplify these businesses, because I'm assuming that he's a hospitality group. So these businesses have to be able to register with his group in order for him to make money, in order to be able to organize these events, which is a good trade-off for the type of caliber events that he puts together. But I really do feel that we have to consider this 40% as like, oh, he's doing us a favor. Like, no, you coming up to Washington Heights, the vibe is already in Dykeman. If you think about it, now that you want to add something to the equation has to make sense. So while I hear this whole, I think we have to look at a little bit deeper into that number, being that this is a business and somebody's coming to not only amplify, but to get a taste of what that vibe already has. And I think we got to be a little bit more like, well, yes, it's a pilot, and I agree, but something to look at is you're coming up here is already pretty well established. Let's think about a 60-40 and having the 40, so that's one recommendation. And number two, when it came to the whole bid situation, and that's a conversation I have with Isidro, but I do want to say it on the record. We have to be, now that we're talking about the cleanups and being able to do all of that, we also have to be able, while we're taking off graffiti, also contemplate how we use some of the funding or eventual funding to actually beautify these spaces and bring local artists to beautify their community. So that's just something to think about.
So we have.
Oh, go ahead. I won't mention anything. Just go ahead.
Okay, we have new members that haven't, so I have Luana. You yield? Okay. Hector, Tracy raised her question, and Olsi. So Olsi, Tracy, Barbara, we're gonna move forward. If there are things that, and I think, there's a running list of questions, we can have an email with them tomorrow. So, and that way they'll let us know in terms of the 40%.
It's too much, we could talk offline about it, and I'm willing to help draft that email.
No, just to quickly mention, Isidro is doing art on the Ave. I don't know if you're doing it. So he is including local artists to kind of bridge that gap on those.
Okay, cool. So we
test
got to
areas.
make sure that Isidro actually communicates this instead of keeping it incubated.
Gotcha.
So sorry, it was, we'll work our way up. So OC with the mask and then Hector who has a spiffy suit on.
Yeah, will you take a friendly amendment about, I'm piggybacking on what Domingo was saying. Instead of 40% to make it 70%?
So I'm not gonna take that amendment just because it's already been part of the event. In the resolution, you can see that I did mention that for the future events, we would raise them. So
But he's coming to our neighborhood, so he should listen to what we need in our district, and we need 70%. Just as a example, so that should be negotiated.
Sure. And again, it was spoken about in the meeting as a plan to elevate for next year 40% and start from there.
Testing. How's it going, everyone? How's it going, everyone? My name is Hector Bonilla. I'm also on the Business Development Committee.
That's right.
And just a few points to add. I had the pleasure of being on the call as well. Hispanic Heritage Month actually starts on September 15, hence the date for the event. In terms of location, I think Isidro mentioned that we went to Sherman's Creek, but due to the situation of the street, it was unsafe for pedestrians. And last one, its main value proposition, the hospitality group, is bringing a new demographic to Dykeman. So it doesn't make sense that we have all the same businesses in the same neighborhood for that same establishment for these individuals, when I think their value proposition is to bring a whole new demographic of people from all types of Hispanic and Spanish heritage restaurants. Yeah. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Hector.
All right, and we're gonna go on to Zoom for Barbara. Yeah, and she's our final speaker on this item.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you can see me. I'm sorry, I'm laying out in my bed. I'm bedridden with a injured foot, a sprained, possibly fractured ankle. So pardon my appearance and my everything. 3 questions. Number 1, you say 40% will be from local businesses. How do you define local? For example, some of the best Hispanic restaurants are more in the lower heights, like around the hospital. Is that considered local? What zip codes do you consider local? That must be very clearly defined, okay? So that's the first thing. How are you defining local? So that, because I would hate to think that Caridad and some of these really great restaurants down in the lower heights would be excluded. Okay, second question. How in the 40% category, how do fusion restaurants, like Spanish, Asian, things like that, are they in the 40% category, or are they in the 60% so that they get a pass on the 40%, like Spanish, Asian, that kind of thing, because that would obviously change the mix of restaurants, and a local restaurant that is Asian Spanish could then not be part of the 40% and be included in the event. So that's an important detail. And thirdly, I really want to support what Liz said. I do think that it is inappropriate on a very holy and important night to start it on September 15th. It's may I say, clueless, absolutely clueless and inappropriate. To me, it would be, while Rosh Hashanah is the New Year's celebratory, I would consider it, as a practicing Catholic, similar to having this kind of wild street event on Good Friday. It's just not appropriate. And, it's the fall, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. So there's lots of time in the early fall for great days to have events like this. It doesn't have to be September 15th. And I think that Washington Heights and Inwood has always been a very diverse, multicultural, and multilingual and multi-religious
Barbara,
community.
we reached time. I want
Fine,
to answer the
okay.
questions now.
But I
Thank you.
do want those 2 points really made clear.
Sure.
Thank you. So we'll circulate those questions, Joel, tomorrow.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right. And congrats on your first resolution. All right, next up is Housing Human Services, Marielle Ali with Resolution E. Yes, E. So, 4 minutes to speak, okay? And then, okay, and then everybody else, got it.
Yeah, those are the questions. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So firstly, refer you all to the minutes, but I do just want to highlight 2 or 3 things based off of our meeting earlier this month. We had a presentation by our colleagues at BRC, which I'll talk about that resolution that's before you, Resolution E, in a moment. But we also had a presentation from WEACT, from Environmental Justice. We talked a little bit about MBPO's Housing Manhattanites, and I know Wayne, we're in touch and kind of moving some of those things forward, as well as the Business Development Committee. I did want to provide a short update as well before I talk about the resolution before you this evening on the Jordan Neely resolution. You may recall that it was brought to all of you at the last month. It has been tabled. We hope to bring it forward to all of you in the fall once we have a bit more information. You all provided constructive feedback, and so we hope to have kind of a more succinct and kind of to the point resolution, because it's incredibly important what we've highlighted there. So the resolution before you this evening, and a shout out to Bruce for preparing, and a shout out to Jay for preparing the minutes, and Emily for chairing the meeting last month while I was traveling. The resolution before you is in calling for Community Board 12 to support the Bowery Residence Committee Men's Shelter Development at 3972 10th Avenue Inwood. Earlier this evening, you heard from Muzzy. You also heard from Peggy as well to talk a little bit about the Inwood shelter. So the shelter, it's transitional. The resolution has a lot of information on the background of BRC, and that they're a known nonprofit organization that has been doing this work for many years. They're known in the community. For this particular site, they have engaged stakeholders, and I actually recall participating in some of the listening circles myself a few years ago. And I found that thoughtful and important. And so for me, that's a big plus. And those are the types of operators and nonprofits and community organizations that we want in our neighborhood. I mean, again, the resolution kind of talks a lot about what the shelter will bring. You know, it's 16 bed transitional housing for men, recognizing, as Aisha mentioned earlier, the rising rate of evictions. We know that homelessness is at an all-time high. This is an opportunity for us to help our unhoused neighbors. With that, I guess the other thing I'll point out, it's looking to open early mid 2025, and there will be about 67 job opportunities for local people in the area. So it's not just, you know, helping support our unhoused neighbors, but also providing employment opportunities for our neighbors as well. So there's a lot happening there. With that, I will open for questions.
Let's go from.
Thank you.
And just so I'm thankful that our BRC colleagues are still here. So if they're kind of very specific questions, I may just ask them to respond.
you
if that's
can
okay.
bring
Thank you.
Okay, start? Okay, thank you so much. I have to bring the elephant in the room. And I don't mean to sound like an utter orifice, but I'm a little bit concerned that the community is being used as a repository to correct social ills. As a 52 resident, we've seen social services such as the Nail Exchange Center facility, unfortunately bringing more dumped needles. The reason why I say this, and I do work behind, for the record, I do work behind a homeless shelter, a male homeless shelter. So I'm a little bit concerned about how are you going to measure this kind of success so that we can all live peacefully, so that, you know, with all of our good intentions and all altruistic ideals, sometimes the idea is good in concept, but in practice it gets abandoned. And I use that word very strategically. So I'm wondering, how are we going to assess the success of this center so that then I can vote with a clear conscience, because a lot of promises are made and they all fail. And I'm saying this because I lived in this neighborhood in my entire life. We nursed it through the crack era. So I just want to make sure that now that it's becoming a nice and upcoming neighborhood, as has been quoted in the media, that we also, those of us who were not able to move elsewhere, we stuck it here, and we just don't want our neighborhood to devolve. I have to say it, and my apologies.
Thank you for your, should I take a few and then respond?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that way in case you want to yield some of your time to them to respond, maybe we hear from everybody first and then circle back.
I'm just a little confused. Is this a new development that's gonna go, like, they're gonna demolish what's currently there? Because they already demolished it now. It's currently demolished. And it's gonna be a residential development, and on the bottom floor, it's gonna be a shelter, or is it just gonna be a shelter?
It's a shelter.
It's just a shelter.
It's just a shelter for 116 men, 116 beds. And it includes, again, the sacred site, kind of recognizing the traumatic past of that site.
Okay, thank you.
So hold on, 1, 2, 3.
I just have a question about the details of the memorial. So it talks in the resolution about in 1903 when the actual site was desecrated. Will the story be told in the memorial about that site being desecrated and sort of giving the details? Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
So I want to speak in favor of this resolution. It has been an honor and a privilege to work as part of the Aegis Committee and to learn as much about this site and to also figure out, you know, the reality of homelessness is it has a much greater impact on people of color, particularly Black people. And for a site that was a slave burial ground and then was so tragically and horribly desecrated in the most disrespectful way. I mean, not that you can have respectful desecration, obviously, but just in the worst and most disgusting possible way, that this site is now being not only honoring that history and teaching that history so that it isn't swept away, so that we learn from it to never again do that, but also that site is being put into the service of people who are oppressed, not by slavery, but by the legacy of slavery, and homelessness feels appropriate to me. BRC has an incredible track record for good programming. And many of the people who will be served either are our neighbors, were our neighbors, or are camping out in our end of the line A-train stop. So it's really important to think of this not as a magnet for homeless people who somehow magically don't exist here, but as a way of helping people who are here already and need our help.
I think technically your seat is a little further.
Hold on,
this
before
way.
Daryl, before you begin, I just want Barbara, Tanisha, we see you. We will circle back as soon as we're done with in-person hands.
That's it. Two quick questions. During the meeting, was there any opposition from residents or surrounding businesses?
Yeah, we'll get
Oh,
into that.
okay. And then just to clarify real quick, this placement is directly below the zoning, the rezoning area? I guess it's more for Wayne,
It's yeah, it's 215.
right? It starts at 214? It's just below the rezoned area.
Yeah, if he has a community facility space, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I think it matters to the people.
It doesn't matter for zoning. Is what.
We'll double check.
I think those.
Oh, that was
Any
it for
other
in-person?
hands?
Okay, cool. I thought I missed one. All right, so we're gonna go with Tanisha, Steve, and Barbara in that order since folks started, since Barbara already spoke. Tanisha, you go on mute. Tanisha, can you hear us? Okay, we're gonna go to Steve and then Tanisha, if you're ready, just unmute and I'll come back to you. Steve?
Yeah, I've heard some concerns about the fact that the shelter is going to be located next door to PS 98. I'm wondering if what kind of measures will be taken to make sure that there's no conflict with the school or with the students, going to and from the school. Has there been any discussion about that?
We're going to answer all the questions at the end, Steve, but your question's noted. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara, go ahead. Yeah, but Tanisha. there's
Okay,
something
yeah.
else about it.
I had a discussion with Manny De Los Santos, our assemblyman, about this. And he also reported to me that the school was extremely concerned and against the siting of the shelter. And we had discussed, I had put forth, as when Richard Lewis was the chairman, a similar type shelter had been proposed at what was at 178th in Amsterdam. And as a community board, we spoke out vociferously against it and instead proposed that a shelter be put there instead for women and children who were displaced, and that we won that. And initially the Upper West Side borough office said, oh, no, it has to be for single men. We said, no, we have that. We have at the Armory. We have a single men's prison. We have now instituted a single men's a halfway house at 163rd. We have the Armory at 168th. We have done on this. So we got those single women's housing shelter at 178th. It's working very well. Propose that we oppose this, and we oppose this. And if there's going to be a shelter, that it be for displaced families that are being evicted, women and children, which would be next to the school. One of the worst and traumatic things for kids is that they are being evicted from their neighborhoods and they're not getting school stability. So that to have a shelter for women and children next to a school would be a very strong advantage for children. So I strongly oppose this single men's shelter next to a school and instead say they better change their plan and make it for women and children. And evicted families, we know evictions are happening of families all over our neighborhood. It would be much more beneficial to our neighborhood to have it for families, for women and children. I say do not support this resolution.
Right on time. No, that's it.
Can we check if
Oh,
Tanisha's
hi,
back
we got
on?
one more in person, then we're gonna go to you and then, let's set the clock for her.
Is Tanisha back on? 'Cause I
No,
wanna
she
check.
can't talk right now.
Okay, got it. So, sorry, who else?
Heidi. All right, well. She's getting her steps in today.
I understand that there's like community objection to the site based off the school. I'm wondering if there was any conversations with school administrators for PS 98 or from the DOE in terms of the location. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak in support of this. Just like Liz was saying, homeless people will still be homeless. This is transitional housing to get them a step closer to where they need to be. And if you read the resolution, PS 98 was consulted on this.
Yes, and they were against it.
Barbara, you're out of order.
All right.
Barbara, you're out of order. I do have a question that I wanted to tag on. If there, or maybe it's an amendment, actually. If there were, because I do see that PS 98 is actually the only one like listed, but if there were, because there are a series of restaurants, clubs, nightclub, bars around there. So if there were small businesses that were supportive or did attend the sessions, it'd be good to list them as well.
Sure, thank you. Is that the last question? This is a lot of questions. I'm trying to keep track.
So that way, because she has a long list. So we're gonna put, let's put 4 minutes instead.
My question is around this, the area. There's always been, like every summer, I remember when I was in licensing, there's always something happening in that area. I remember last summer, there was a shooting outside of the club, and I believe somebody passed out twice. So I think licensing could speak on that area and the hot spot that it could potentially be. Just something to think about.
Thank you. Okay, so thankful that our BRC colleagues are here, but I will say thank you everyone for your points and questions. Luana, your point on how will be measured and kind of how that will be addressed. I will point you to kind of some of their achievements that are listed in the resolution, as you kind of see here. I will also say that Muzzy has offered, and BRC as a whole, they have offered tours, not just for the Housing and Human Services Committee. And I know Michelle is helping to facilitate that, but for the wider community as well. And so once those are ready, then, you know, those opportunities will be available so that we can see in person how some of that, those services are provided to our unhoused neighbors. I won't kind of go through the details, but you'll see here, and I'll kind of let BRC talk about a little bit more about how they assess and measure and how they support their clients. To the question, I think Anthony mentioned about how the details of the memorial site, I think it was already acknowledged that yes, that history will be captured. And again, kind of having participated myself in some of the listening circles, there being, you know, from what I've seen, it very much is intentional and thoughtful and really making sure that no detail is missed and then really capturing. And wanted to highlight again, kind of Liz's point, you know, it's almost, here's a site where so much happened, so much history, but there's also an opportunity to support single Black men to then move on and kind of get them closer to that stability that we need. And to Barbara's point, I understand your concern about, you know, women and children. Yes, they also need shelter. And yes, that's very important, but we also shouldn't forget that single men are also people and they also need homes and they also need an opportunity to get their lives on track. Opposition of locals, I think that was someone that had asked. No one came to the committee meeting. It was there. It's open to the public. Anyone can go, as you all know. No one participated or showed up and kind of expressed kind of concerns or anything. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time to our BRC colleagues. Come on down, Muzzy or Miguel. Thank you.
Muzzy, you have a minute.
Right. So again, I'm Muzzy Rosenblatt. I'm the president and CEO. Miguel Guadalupe, who is the vice president for donor and community relations, who's been doing a lot of the community engagement along with me. Do you want to talk to a few things, particularly the school?
Yeah, so we have been engaging the school at PS 98. We've been working with the administrators, and we have presented to the school leadership team, which is made up of parents, administrators, and faculty members. We do understand their concerns, some of the ways we're addressing that. Just, you know, the question that's always asked, you know, the fact of the matter is, if you can't live by a school, you will not live at the shelter. That's the way the law is, and we perform that. The other thing is that it is designed so that there are outdoor spaces within the actual property. So we will have a roof for folks to actually be outside, so they don't have to converge on the sidewalks or in the way of the school. We also have 24-hour staffing, and that staff will also include folks going around the area, engaging with anyone as well, and particularly with clients if they see them out.
Thanks. And again, the mention of the end of line, we're actually up here, our outreach workers every morning from midnight to 5, working with folks coming out of the A train, except when they move it down to 168th Street, and then we got to go run down there. You're familiar with that, I'm sure. And then in terms of the memorial, we will not be operating it. That's another important part. I mentioned we're working with the Dyckman Farmhouse Alliance. We do not think, as much as our mission, I think, in history coincides with this, the work that the Dyckman Farmhouse Alliance has been doing at the Dyckman Museum, and hopefully will then be taking over the operation of this site. They're the cultural organization. They're the ones who have the historical understanding, working with Peggy and working with the advisory group, that will be a vibrant memorial, not just a plaque on a wall.
Thank you.
I hope that responded to all questions. I do see Tanisha was able, and Miriam. I'm going to allow for just 1 minute. And again, let's put 3 minutes on the time between both, because we do need to move on to the next set of resos. So Tanisha, go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't speak before. I wanted to speak towards the moratorium and about the African burial spot. And I wanted to say, as a Black woman, as a Black person, I want to make sure that this is not just going to be something that is, a signal, a symbol. A lot of times when we ask for change and when we ask to uplift the story of African descendants in this country, we get symbols instead of real changes. So I will be watching closely as the community board member and as someone who has born and bred in the community, that this will not be another site like that. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks. Miriam?
It was said that they engaged people in the community. Well, nobody in Dyckman Houses knew about it. I didn't know about it. We have a senior center, we have a community center, and we also have a children's center. None of us knew anything about this.
Thank you, Miriam.
Who did they engage?
Yeah, I mean, this was a very long engagement over about 2.5 years. We actually started with the community board, with alerts, et cetera. We've done tours, we've worked with local elected officials. Our advisory group incorporates both folks who are in the community as well as experts in their fields regarding the memorial site. So yeah, I mean, did we knock on everybody's door in the area? No, and we will continue to do that and engage. So we're happy to present to anyone who wants to learn more about the program, about BRC and what we're doing. We're happy to have those conversations with anyone.
And again, to some of the points that were made earlier, we operate a shelter, a much larger one, right across the river, right across University Heights Bridge in the Bronx at Landing Road, just off Fordham, right by Salsa Con Fuego. So to get a sense of who we are, don't just take our word for us. Please take us up on the invitation. Come see for yourself. Draw your own conclusions. Don't draw your conclusions based on us. In terms of success, again, we've been doing this for a long time. We take a very integrated approach throughout our organization, and 2 to 3 times a day on average over the course of a year in and year out, people are graduating from our shelters and moving to more independent housing, just like about 24 times a day, people are coming out of the subways and moving into a variety of more appropriate living situations than the New York City subway system. So that's the process, and that's who we are. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to BRC. Thank you, Mary Yell. That does conclude the time we have for this reso. Again, it's reso letter E. All right, and then Isidro is not present tonight, so and I'm sorry that because there's so many of them. So Angel's going to be talking about licensing.
It looks really overwhelming. It's really not. There are most of the applicants we recommended that this board does not object to their application with the exception of 3, and I can talk about those. Applicant number 8 did not show to the meeting, and though this was simply a renewal, typically if you don't show, that's not something that would preclude you from us voting to recommend to not object. But in this case, they also did not submit a complete application. Number 10, similarly, no show, and also their application was incomplete. And then applicant number 20 was seeking a new license, and they did not show up to present on their application.
All right. So I saw 20. I wasn't. So it's Tracy.
I was reading based off of what's on the agenda, so let's do it that way. A is objection, correct.
Thank you, Simari, for doing that in real time. So let's start with Tracy. Sorry, with the laptop. We're gonna do Liz, Wayne. Yeah, she's gonna fix in real time.
But is it also?
This is incorrect on this picture.
She's fixing it.
But the agenda that you have before you is what it is.
I will wait. I'm gonna table myself to see what the correction.
So the best indication of the best document to use at this moment that I spoke based off of is the agenda that was in the packet. So I'm giving you numbers based on the agenda that's in the packet. Number 8, we recommend to object. Number 10 and number 20.
Okay. So I'm gonna pass it for unless Tracy we're gonna go back to Liz. Okay, good.
I respect and appreciate the work of the committee, and I totally understand that people should show up to the meetings that they are called for. I have no idea why 181 Hudson View Restaurant didn't show up, but I would just like to speak in favor of them for, I have no ties to them, but when they run a clean business, they have good food, it's reasonably priced. I hope the reason that they didn't show up is because they didn't get the notice, which is often the reason why, and I would respectfully encourage people to vote to vote against to vote no on 8, which is to say to vote in favor of their renewal application.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, just to clarify, typically for renewals, we don't expect the applicant to be there in person. This
Got it.
particular application that was incomplete, though. They did not submit
Got
a
it.
questionnaire, they didn't put up the public notice that's required of everyone else.
Okay. So let's respect the order. Next up was Wayne.
Thank you. Just a couple minor things. For 15 and 16, we're talking about class change or corporate change. I think it would be useful to spell out that this is a change to an on-premise liquor from a wine. Based on my reading of the resolution.
Yes, for 15?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think in terms of what the resolution is not objecting to, I think it's, be useful just to spell out that
Understand.
changes to an on-premise liquor. And I think there's a minor typo in resolution 17, the 7th whereas. It says the operator wants to the bar about 10 feet. I think you want to insert move, wants to move the bar about 10 feet.
Thank you. All right, next up was Olsey, then you're gonna do Joelle and back down to Jim.
In terms of number 10, normally,
May we hear you?
okay. You guys allow applicants to complete the applications on site. What happened in that case? I'm talking about number 10. And I have just a quick comment about number 8. This is not the first time that they're not showing up.
Can I look at this? So number 10.
Pinchos Grill.
So if you look at the minutes, the applicant did not submit the questionnaire, and they also did not post a proof of public notice.
I just want a quick comment. I just want to encourage the general board that we have a uniform process in the licensing committee. And, we don't have any biases through to relations. It's clear cut, right? If you submit the things on time, and you have no violations or, have any issues with the precinct, then, we recommend. But keep in mind that number 10 did not have, was it number 10? No, it was 8. 8 didn't have a complete application, nor did they show up, both. So that's why we did not recommend. All right. We have to set this precedent and make sure that we stick to it. Thanks.
All right, and then Jim, if there are folks online who would like to raise their hand and speak to licensing, please do so now.
In resolution number 16, what is the precise corporate change that's occurring? Oh, that's what I thought it was. So
Yes, the two sons are gonna have 50-50.
And that's the whole change.
Yes, they're gonna be the
Thank you
new
very much.
owners.
Okay. Sorry, it was Daniel and then Jay.
It's real fast. I actually sat on this meeting and watched the whole thing. I want to piggyback off what he said. A lot of the process were super fair, and they were very rigorous about everything. And it's not fair that like, let's say like number 8, like they didn't show up, that's like their responsibility and all that stuff. I found it to be very like eye-opening and how like fair they were with like everything, even like the grading of the restaurant, like they took those things into consideration, even if it was not really needed to be, but yeah, that's it. Did a good job.
Thank you.
To close would be Jay. I know, Robin, you haven't spoken.
On number 5, it's a little unclear to me what these problems were that were alluded to. It says the establishment has secured pest control. That sounds to me like they're saying they haven't removed the problem, that the problem is still continuing. Then there's a question of the quality of the kitchen or the safety of the kitchen as well. And that might also be related to the question of pest control or not. I'm a little unclear on that. It does say they need to do extermination work weekly, and they have some sort of a problem with connecting space to a residential building. So I'd like to get some clarification on all of those points for number 5.
Sure. So we did have a pretty extensive conversation, if I remember correctly, about the health inspection here. The operator did flag for us that they are one of those storefronts that are within a residential building. So a lot of this is also outside of their control in terms of what they can do. They are working directly with the landlords to try to address the issue with the neighboring residents. In addition to that, as you can read in the minutes, the applicant is conducting a weekly extermination, pest extermination, to try to deal with the problem on their own as they continue to work this out for a more long-term solution with the landlord.
And on number 11, I also have questions about the SLA fines. And I'd like to get a bit more explanation. It says here they were for loud noise, failure to post an address on the building, and some sort of violations related to COVID unspecified. Could you go into more detail on that, please?
The details that you see in the minutes is as detailed as they got with us. These were violations that they have received since 2017, and they managed to say that they have paid that off and they have resolved the violations. That's what they shared with the committee. It was a capacity problem at the time. They resolved the violation and then proceeded to not do something that would lead them to get that violation a second time around.
So we'll go to Robin and then we'll wrap up.
I just want to have a support, like Danny says. We've been here, like licensing committee, we started the meeting at 6:30 and sometimes we finish at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's not fair for people to come and don't show up. And, license 8 and then 20. We had 20. So how come we're going to prove if they're not submit the applications, they're not posted anything? So we had to be clear and outstanding. Said.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that leads us for all the resolutions. We're gonna do roll call. All right, this is what we're gonna do, y'all. Patience. Yeah, so we're gonna walk up. As you can see, we're short secretaries this evening. So What we're gonna do is call names as we see them and give us your letters first. Remember, right? So your letters first. And that would be if you're voting no, abstentions, or if you're in conflict. And then the numbers and then, yeses, your yeses.
Okay.
Sorry, yes. So, thank you, Jim, for reminding me. This does include resolution letter A, so I do want to take a quick check, temperature check if there are folks who have questions or if about substantive content questions. All right. So we're gonna keep going. If not, I see people huddling real quick to ask if you need to. You start, you got the mic, so wherever you start. We'll partner on this. So I got you. I have a resume.
Okay, I'm gonna start alphabetically and then please give me your no's followed by your abstains. Joel Abreu,
Yes to all.
okay, Elvin Adams,
Yeah, yes to all, but abstain from the business development.
which letter is that? D?
L.
D.
Okay. Marielle Ali.
Yes to all. Okay, yes to all.
Okay. Richard Allman.
Staying on D, yes. to all.
Yeah, that's maybe go by the order of the seat of that one.
Need to do this again into the mic.
Yeah.
Abstain on D, yes to all the others.
Next one is Jay Baez.
The steps are in today.
Yes to all.
Jacob Banas.
Yes to all.
Radia Barnes.
Yes to all.
Right?
Wayne Benjamin.
Yes to all.
Right, and then Dan.
James Berlin. You can share my mic.
Yes to all except for number 15, on which I vote no.
Okay. So no on 15.
He's on the phone.
Okay. Daniel Bonilla.
Abstain on E and yes to all.
Can you repeat that? Abstain on
E.
E as an elephant. Thank you. Hector Bonilla.
Thank you. Yes to all.
James Bosley.
No to D, and I have a conflict on 17. They're a business that donates to a company that I'm involved in, a nonprofit. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and that's conflict, not abstain.
CI.
The separate one. Okay.
You could
okay,
just write
got it.
conflict.
I just
I'll
wrote
go for it.
conflict. Okay. Eleazar Bueno.
Yes to all, abstain on E.
Daryl Cochran.
Yes, all of it.
No on 8 and yes to the rest.
Luis Cruz.
Luis is on Zoom.
Yes. Abstain on E. Yes to the rest.
Thank you. Robin Cruz.
No to E yes to the rest.
The distinction between B and E, because sometimes I hear D and sometimes.
Mhm. We'll say
Yeah, I
elephant,
was
yeah.
saying E and elephant, and the last one was E, elephant for Louis Cruz. And Robin Cruz, who was abstain on E as an elephant, no to E. Thank you. Catherine Diaz,
Yes to all.
Domingo Esteves,
Abstain on E, yes to the rest.
Luana Ferreira,
Abstain E, yes to the rest.
Faye Florimon,
Yes to all.
Barbara Frazier,
No on E, no on 15, yes to the rest.
no on E as an elephant, no on the number 15, yes to the rest. Thank you.
Correct.
Tanisha Grant,
Yes to all.
Heidi Guzman,
Yes to all.
Simari Hernandez. Oh, you share my mic.
Yes to all.
Miriam James,
Yes to all.
OC Commoner,
No to letter A. Abstain on D, like David. Yes to the rest.
thank you. So that's no on the letter A as in Adam and abstain on the letter D as in David. Michelle Lee, myself, I'll abstain on E as in elephant and I'm yes to the rest. Liz Ritter,
Yes to all except for A, on which I abstain, 15, on which I vote no, 17, on which I am not voting due to conflict on the grounds that they were a donor to a not-for-profit organization on whose board I sit. And Robin, you convinced me on 8.
okay, just repeating your vote, your no on A as in Adam, sorry, abstain on A as in Adam, and you are no on 15, conflict on 17. Yes to the rest, thank you. Emily Marte,
Yes to all.
thank you. Jay Mazer,
Yes to all.
Tracy McNeil,
Yes to all.
Isidro Medina.
He's not present.
Okay, so he's not present. Okay.
No, not anyone.
Okay.
Not at the time of roll call.
Carmen Polino,
Abstain to E and yes to the rest.
Abstain on E, yes to the rest. E is an elephant. Jonathan
Not
Prometa, go
present.
ahead.
No, he's not present tonight.
No, not voting, okay. Indiana Porta,
Oh, she's still on the Zoom.
Indiana Porta,
Sorry about that. I was just turning on mute. I vote. I vote yes on all, please.
thank you. Bruce Robertson,
Yes to all.
Catherine, I'm present. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, John.
I'm sorry about, yeah, my mic wasn't muted. I vote yes on all.
and that's Jonathan Frometa.
That's correct.
Okay, Carl Unegbu,
Hi, so I vote yes to all.
Angel Vasquez,
Yes to all.
Anthony Viola.
Abstain on 5, yes to the rest.
Abstain on 5, yes to the rest. Is there anyone here I have not called their name?
Yes, you haven't called mine.
Yep. Okay, Steve Simon, go ahead with your vote.
Abstain on A, not voting on C, and due to my position with the New York City Parks Department, voting yes on all others.
Okay, repeating that back to you, abstain on A as in Adam and conflict on C as in Cat. Thank you. Is there anybody else who hasn't voted?
No. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle, for stepping in. So I did have an ask today, because of timing and it's the last meeting, if folks need to refer to the minutes, But I think, Faye, and is there another committee chair present either in person or on Zoom that would like to speak or an announcement? No, Faye? Oh, Faye, are you going to be speaking tonight or no?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, good evening, everyone. Briefly, yes, I just wanted to report that we have 2 presentations. The first presentation was from Arlene Rodriguez Martinez from Gas Power Initiative. She made a presentation about her program, which consists in 8 weeks training for the 5th and 8th graders. And also she spoke about the audition that they're going to have on one was already passed, which was in June 24, and the next is going to be on June 29 for parents interested. And also we have a second presentation from Officer Cano Land, which was from NYPD Community Affairs, the Outreach Division from the LGBTQI community. And he basically presented or spoke briefly about the LGBTA community issues or affecting, the community. More details in the minutes. So we also presented there was a resolution in support of youth community engagement. Unfortunately, didn't pass. So that will probably sometime in September, hopefully, if the committee wanted to take on this. And last, I just wanted to inform you that in the past executive committee, I presented my resignation after 14 years as a board member. And I also sent you, all of you, the letter of resignation. And I wanted just to cite this opportunity to tell you that, that was a very hard decision for me, as I already expressed during the executive section. But I think sincerely that it's time for me to pass this leadership opportunity to a young generation, especially the newcomers into, the board. And so with that in mind, I just wanted to say, since this is going to be my last general committee, attendance at this general committee, that I would like to thank, first of all, my committee throughout all these years, for formers and also present members. And of course, all board, the entire board, whether it is new or, old folks, for the opportunity to work with you. It has really been a great experience, and more than experience, I think it has been also a privilege working with all of you, which many of you had also served me as a teacher. So I really had taken this experience, not light, but I'm walking away with a great, experience, which I hope and looking forward to employ this and then in my next, path, whatever, this is going to lead me. So I want to thank you, all of you. And I guess this is it for me. So I hope to see you from time to time. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faye, for your service, for everything. This Friday, hopefully, you know, the Canadian wildfires don't hold us back from going to North End, but we absolutely will be celebrating your service and thanking you. And there's someone who is still on the Zoom that will also be there, which is Maria Luna, who after 43 years of service also stepped down this year. So we got some Titans who left the board this year, but I know they'll still be popping in as she does and sending us information as they both do. So all committee chairs are going to be referring to their minutes.
Except me.
Except Steve, of course. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Well, you know, I believe it's important to give updates about COVID-19 in our community, and the latest report as of today from the Health Department shows perhaps the lowest transmission rate that I can recall since the beginning of the pandemic. Only 9 new cases per 100,000 people over the last 7 days. Since the beginning of the month, there have been 95 new cases, and thankfully, no more people last month since the beginning of June have died in our community. So you know, we stand at 1,007 people who have died since the beginning of the pandemic, but thankfully in June, there have been no more people added to that list. Let me also say that at our last meeting on June 1st, my committee, Health and Environment, had a couple of important presentations. One from DEP on a project in which they've been using noise cameras to enforce the noise code in Inwood for a brief span of time, proved to be fairly effective in catching automobiles with excessively loud mufflers. And I believe that in the budget discussions in the fall, we will be urging that additional such cameras be purchased so that both Washington Heights and Inwood could have such cameras. And we also got a report from an NYU researcher from the Department of Civil and Urban Engineering about a study that was done on air pollution in the subway stations that found that the 168th Street and 181st Street subway stations had the worst pollution of the entire system on the #1 line. I would hope that this is an issue that will be pursued not just by my committee, but also by the Traffic and Transportation Committee in the fall. And finally, I want to report, unfortunately, that we still have not heard from New York Presbyterian Hospital on when the psych unit that was closed down at the Allen Hospital will be reinstated, and not just when it will be reinstated, but where it might be reinstated, since they have been saying that they will, they're not going to put it back at the Allen Hospital, but we'll put it somewhere in the community yet to be revealed to us. It's unfortunate that they still have not told us what the story is with the 30-bed psych unit, which I think everybody, including Governor Hochul, has talked about the need for these psych beds, and I hope that they are returned as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right, you had a question from Domingo. Hold on.
Hey, Steve, is it possible, because you know when these institutions want something, they're constantly, when they have a specific agenda, they're constantly on the board, constantly engaging. But it seems like when they don't need anything, they seem to disappear. Is there any suggestions you have on how we could keep them accountable, or for the board to be able to think about these institutions come, engage, they don't need us, disappear. So how could we create some sort of check and balances on the board where we hold them accountable for that?
Well, I think that's a quite legitimate question, and what my committee tried to do some months ago, I believe now a year ago, in June of last year, we passed a resolution calling upon the state health department and the state office of mental health to require the hospital to reopen these beds. And despite the fact that I asked the board office to follow up on that resolution at a point to which we had, I believe, a state health commissioner who was sympathetic to our cause, that never happened. So I think we blew it. We had a chance maybe to force the issue when we passed that resolution, and that resolution just went down the tubes. It's not the way I think this board should function. And I think that's a poor reflection on this board. But I mean, I think we need to keep it in mind. I agree with you. Whenever the hospital comes to us and asks us for something, they have not been forthcoming on this issue. And in general, I've been disappointed with much of the things that they've done during the COVID crisis. But you know, I think this is really almost unforgivable that we still do not have any information from them about the reinstatement of these psych beds.
Okay, thanks. I hope that answered your question, Domingo, but we do welcome.
Do you feel like a vote of no confidence would merit a situation like this?
In what? For like the institution? Yeah, okay. So we'll keep talking through the summer, particularly around those strategies, I think in the fall as well, around like who are the partners that we need to re-engage more. We have had that discussion around like, especially city agencies that have been unresponsive to us. So I think that is an ongoing question. And if there are strategies or practices that folks want to recommend, we can do that. Is there any old business, new business? I didn't hear that.
Could I make an announcement?
Sorry, okay, one announcement, Steve, and then we're gonna go in because there's a motion that has not been seconded. So what's your announcement, Steve?
My announcement is that if the weather holds up tomorrow, the Parks Department is having a ceremony for the opening of the pool season at the Highbridge Pool at Amsterdam Avenue and 173rd Street at 11 o'clock. And
Liz is gonna jump in the pool. Don't worry. Rain and all, she's jumping in.
Well,
Yes, she announced it earlier
okay,
this
we
evening.
better fill up the pool overnight. Yeah, we invite all of the board members to come and join us, assuming the weather holds up tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Okay, 11 o'clock, Highbridge Pool, 175th. I see one motion. There's a
173rd.
seconded by Liz. Thank you. Have a great summer. Stay safe, be healthy, rest up.
Thank you.
And be on the lookout for communications before. It's Friday, folks. See y'all Friday. Bring family, bring pets, bring kids.